Have you ever looked into the water of a stream or a lake and noticed bubbles rising up from the bottom? Why are there bubbles coming up from the sediment? Is there something living down there? Well, yes, bacteria. Bacteria are microorganisms that live almost everywhere, including in sediments. They create energy to live by respiration, just like us.
There are many processes taking place in the sediment column. Let's explore the aerobic region first, designated by the red arrow on the screen. Aerobic respiration occurs when organic matter is broken down in the presence of oxygen. This process produces carbon dioxide, water, ammonia, hydrogen sulfide, and phosphate. The goal of respiration is to produce energy for the cell in the form of ATP. Once all of the oxygen is gone, bacteria can partake in several different forms of anaerobic respiration. Denitrification occurs when organic matter is broken down with nitrate used as the electron acceptor. Dinitrogen and nitrous oxide are produced along with the other byproducts, and similarly ATP. Once nitrate is used up, bacteria can use the next most electronegative atom available. Sulfate reduction occurs when organic matter is broken down with sulfate as the electron acceptor. Hydrogen sulfide is produced, and of course, ATP. Finally, once the available sulfate is reduced, bacteria move on to using the next most electronegative atom available. Methanogenesis occurs when organic matter is broken down with carbon dioxide as the electron acceptor. Methane is produced, and yep, you guessed it, ATP.
Now that all of these gases have been created as byproducts of respiration, how do they form into the bubbles that we see?
Henry's law states that a certain equilibrium constant exists between the undissolved gases that reach the soil-water interface and those that have already been dissolved in the liquid, as seen here. Therefore, as the concentration of the gas increases, the partial pressure of that gas also has to increase. All the gases are dissolved in the water because the pressure above is greater than that of their total partial pressures. As enough dissolved gases are formed via different processes, their partial pressures increase to that above the total pressure or forces acting against them, so the gases exit the solution to form bubbles of gas. A good example of this process is the opening of a champagne bottle. The pressure inside the bottle is high enough to keep the gases dissolved. As the cork is released, the liquid is then exposed to atmospheric pressure, which is much lower than the pressure prior to opening. The total partial pressures of the dissolved gases are now higher than the pressure acting on them. This sudden change in pressure causes the gas to escape in a very grandiose fashion. The bubbles have the pressure of the entire water column along with the atmosphere pressing into them. The bubble also has its own surface tension and adhesion forces acting at the soil surface. For it to rise up to the water surface, the total pressure of all the individual gases has to add together and become higher than the pressure of the atmosphere plus the pressure of the water column overhead. For example, when you step in a saturated soil in a wetland, you displace this water column. And this takes the pressure off these gases, which allows them to escape around your foot in the form of bubbles.
Let's do a quick recap of all the information we've just learned about. Bacteria live in sediments under the water. These bacteria go through aerobic and anaerobic respiration to create energy to live. These respiratory processes create some byproducts in the form of gas. The important part to remember is that all of these gases are dissolved in the saturated soil. This is because they have the pressure of the atmosphere and the water column above them, keeping them dissolved. But as more and more gases are created, their partial pressures increase. Once enough gas is present, the partial pressures will exceed the pressure above them. The gas come out of the solution and bubbles are formed.